Hello and welcome to the special coverage of the Mint Annual Investment Summit. On the sideline of the panel, I'm in conversation with Kalpesh Kikani. He is the MD and Senior Partner at AION Capital. So Kalpesh, welcome to the show.
Thank
and
you.
A very pleasure to host you for this for the panel. Since you deal with a lot of distressed assets, what is your understanding now? Where is India headed towards? Considering there's a lot of backlogs in the IBC, there are a lot of credit which is riding on the books of the banks, which are slowly turning into NPAs.
Yeah. So where I see things, and I often joke with my team, we have this, I don't know if you have an English literature background, but you have this poem which says...
I am from English literature background.
Wonderful. So then maybe this works for you. Water, water everywhere and
nor
a drop
not
to
a single
drink,
drop to drink.
Right? So it's like a 200-year poem. And I think it applies very aptly to India where we stand today. In terms of the capital available to solve the problem is massive. So that's your water, water everywhere. This panel itself, if you see, just add up the assets managed by the people sitting on this panel, it will be over $1 trillion, which is way above what our problem size is. If you look at even the most conservative of people, they'll tell you our distress problem in India is somewhere between 250 to $300 billion, right? So is there enough capital available globally to solve India's problem? Answer is yes. The problem, however, is the ability to attract that capital, get it to work in the situations, and for that capital to eventually exit so that the investors make a reasonable return on their capital. That has been the challenge over the last couple of years. I think the IBC was a huge step in trying to make this work. Some pieces have worked very well, and we've been at the forefront of doing some of those things, but we still need a lot of work to be done within the community to make sure that we can actually solve.
Is it the pace of the IBC resolution that worries you?
The pace as advertised when we passed the law was 180 days, right? And in special circumstances, it was 270 days. Then they said, okay, now maybe it's 330 days. I'm honestly okay with all of those numbers. 180 is awesome. 330 is fine, right? Can we stick to it, right? In every single case, can we stick to a 330? Can the average be like 250, 270 days? I think that would be the biggest challenge rather than to say, okay, 330 is too long or it all needs to be 180. No. What investors want is certainty. This process will take this much time. That's fine. People mentally are prepared. You say 300 and you take 600, that's not on.
Right. What are the sectors you think that AION Capital is looking at to probably invest or maybe resolve the credit issue in the 2020 or the year ahead?
The biggest sector we think where our skills are required is the financial sector. As you can imagine, it's the bloodline for all other sectors as well. So if you solve this, you effectively solve a lot of problems the country is facing. One of the biggest issues, as you yourself referred to, was transmission of credit to corporates, large, mid, small, has been poor. The reason has been the banks have had their own challenges. Non-bank finance companies, we saw what kind of pain they've gone through over the last year and a half. So I think that is the sector where we will focus a large part of our attention. Globally, that's what we do. We invest significantly in the financial services sector. And that will be our attempt in India as well.
You have any exposure or you have any exposure to the telecom sector? Why I'm asking is, that's one sector which needs attention at the moment. One company is about to shut down if there's not much money pumped in the company, the amount of pending, the AGR that they have due to the government. You have any exposure?
No, we do not have any exposure to the telecom sector. That's a sector which is hugely dominated by government stand, what the government will do or will not do relating to certain decisions. That's not our skill set. What we focus on is businesses which have significant market risk, right? So your ability, your skills that you bring to the table are predicting how market cycles behave, and your ability to add value to the capital structure when the company or a sector is going through a downturn. Ability to predict government action is not something that we do a lot of.
Getting an ownership of a bank, what according to you is the biggest challenge? Because bank in itself is a different entity altogether. It has its credit, it has its human resources, one part of it when you're acquiring, but credit is one part. The loans that it has or the NPAs it has, it's itself that you need to manage from there on. So what are the big challenges?
So when you look at acquiring a bank, obviously pricing the book appropriately is the single biggest challenge when you go in, right? Whether the books are marked appropriately. Have you recognized all the non-performing loans? Have you made the provisions? The reason in India you have significant number of banks trading at a discount to book value is because the market does not believe the book value, correct? And that's the single biggest challenge, because you have hundreds of loan positions. As the new buyer, you have to go in, because your primary job in this business is a business of trust, right? You need to give the market the trust to say, this book is now clean. This board is now clean. There are no governance issues, right? So as a new owner, that becomes your single biggest responsibility, and all that work needs to happen on day zero.
So the due diligence is much more deeper for a BFSI or a bank acquisition?
I would say it's much more granular. When I am buying a steel plant, there is a steel plant in one location, and that's the location I need to diligence. When I'm buying a bank, I'm buying actually hundreds of businesses, because each loan is actually an underlying business that you have lent money to. So the granularity of the diligence is very different when you're buying a bank or a non-bank finance company compared to when you're buying any other industry.
Right. Since you mentioned at the beginning of the conversation that banking is what is the sector that's attractive for AION Capital, in India, you see such opportunities coming up in the future as far as the banking segment is concerned for AION Capital?
So I will broaden that to say financial services in general. That's the space that we think
that would include insurance companies?
Would include insurance, would include non-bank, it would include mortgage companies or housing finance companies as we call them here. All of that is something that is of deep interest to us. We have deep expertise of having run these businesses globally at scale. And we think we can bring our global capital and our global expertise to work in India.
Have you earmarked anything for any amount for India spent?
We invest into India from our global fund, and our global fund can invest in any country, whichever country gives us the best risk-return trade-offs. In addition, we are probably the only global private equity firm which raises capital dedicated to India. So we raise India dedicated capital and we raise global capital, both of which invest into India seamlessly. So there is no cap on how much we can put to work.
Right. One last question about the coronavirus concerns. It may be too early about India, but China already is facing this issue for last 2 months. Do you think investment strategies will change after this event?
I don't think so. The virus is an unfortunate event, and a lot of people have got affected by it, and I dare say a lot more people will get affected before this is behind us. But when you look at it with a financial lens, if it would not have been this, it would have been something else. The markets have been through a massive bull run for just too long, and there needed to be some trigger which helped the market to correct from where it used to be. So it is very unfortunate what we are going through, but this is not a reason why investors will change the way they think. The world is divided into growth investors and value investors, and those two are the predominant styles, and those will continue. This is one trigger which will help people refocus on which way they would like to invest in.
All right. Thanks a lot, Kalpesh, for that insightful conversation.
My pleasure.
So for more details and updates, stay tuned.